Hi, my name is Terry Pearson. I'm going to be reading stories from my new book, No More Days, which is now available on Amazon. You can find the link and more horror content on my page, Something Spooky. Today I'm going to be reading No One Else Will Come. It was cold outside and everything was white. The trees were dead and the shadows deep. In an omnipotent blizzard, a little cabin with warm windows glowed within the infinite darkness. Inside, a small huddle of people mostly ignored each other but were pleasant and exchanged silent smiles and nods as they shuffled from their wood tables to the wood bar and passed each other quietly with ceramic steins full of beer. There was nothing but men, 8 of them, counting the bartender. He was stock and mustached with well-trimmed hair. Then there were 2 pairs, an old man with a crooked back and his skinny, clean-shaven grandson, and what seemed like 2 hunters, judging by their long rifles and coonskin hats. Finally, there were 3 stragglers, a fat one who was very drunk, a well-dressed and tactful gentleman, and a silent, brooding type submerged in the shadows of the corner. The wind howled outside and tried to sneak into the clenched wood cabin. The door rattled a bit at the pressure, and some present turned expectantly towards it. When nothing happened, they went back to their soups and drinks. The fireplace crackled, and now that everyone was settled, the bartender picked up a guitar and started to delicately pick it. The husky drunk lifted his head from his hands, and the old man and his grandson turned towards the music. The refined man nodded his head along as he looked down into his glass of whiskey. Then the roof caved in. Snow flooded in the cabin like it broke from a dam, spreading across and swallowing the entire floor. The old man was killed instantly when a log hit him in the head. His grandson fruitlessly tried to stir him awake. Something had landed on top of the drunk, something alive. As it stood to arch its back, it withdrew large bloody claws that extended from its fingernails in the man's big belly. He slumped over dead. The thing was as tall as 2 men, 12 feet at least, while standing upright on its muscular hind legs. It looked like a bear, hulking, hairy, and bestial, but with a gray tint to its skin and gigantic scaly wings on its back that reminded the bartender of a dragon, the way they fluidly folded and spread. Its face was almost canine, but with sharp boar-like tusks and exposed jagged teeth that fit unnaturally in its jaw. The hunters quickly readied their rifles and unleashed fire on the creature before anyone else had time to even comprehend what was happening. They missed. The thing whirled to them like a tornado with teeth and ripped open their chest, slashing both men with one swift motion. As their innards began to run out of them and drop onto the floor, they each turned to look at the other in bewilderment. It had been such a good day among the alpine trees. The grandson, filled with rage and vigor, attacked the monstrosity with a table knife. He got a good few swings in before it brushed him off with its humongous clawed hand. He flew through the air and crashed through the far wall, landing in a heap in the snow outside. Now there were only 3 of them left. The bartender cowered behind what was left of his bar, watching the carnage while whimpering helplessly. The gentleman was straightening himself up on the other side of the bar, failing to process the impossible and horror unfolding. The shadowy stranger was just emerging from a pile of rubble that had buried him. The monster, covered in the blood of the others, snarled as it stomped towards the fine-dressed gentleman. His nice jacket was now tattered and covered in debris, and the fancy hat he had been wearing was lost, so his hair now seemed flattened and disheveled. He noiselessly mouthed words. The hulking creature walked to him, put its whole hand around his neck, and ripped his head straight off his body. The bear dragon bit into the gory hole, chewing through muscle and guzzling blood, which stained its fur red. The shadowy stranger, watching the last unfold, at last willed his muscles to move and bolted from his spot, bursting through the still intact door and racing off into the white wilderness. The beast flew straight up into the air, high above the bar without a roof, and let out a low, guttural howl, a deafening roar that trilled into what almost sounded like laughter. The man ran at full sprint, occasionally stumbling and swerving as the bear dragon tracked him from the sky. He was heading for the tree line, hoping he could hide and find cover in the dense woods. His panicked animal brain imagined squeezing beneath a downed log or burying himself in piles of snow. His heart already knew he wouldn't make it. Something inside sensed the predator's eyes on him and knew it was only waiting for the right time to snatch him up, and was in some way savoring the sport of the hunt. He heard a powerful flap of wings behind him and felt the wind billow with the beat. There was a pressure in the air from the thing's speedy descent, and when he first left the ground, he pictured himself being lifted in an updraft. Then he felt the force of the thing's grip as its claws burrowed into his shoulder. As it carried him up into the air, the ground got wider below him and everything else got smaller. He kicked and shouted until he ran out of breath. Black splotches invaded his vision and everything went dark. The next and last thing he was aware of was air rushing around him as he fell through the sky. He was struck by how cold it was. Back at the tavern, the bartender slowly stood to survey the damage. He clicked his tongue. And no one will want to come here now. That was No One Else Will Come from No More Days. Please find it on Amazon. Thank you so much.